What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video. Today, I'm bringing Kristen on. We're going to get a woman's perspective on prison in her great state of Kansas, but I'll let her talk about that and talk about who she is, where she's from. So, Kristen, you got the mic. Tell the people who you are, where you're from, and talk about what led to your situation.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Much respect. I've been watching the channel for a few months now and really got into it. My name's Kristen. I'm from out here in Kansas, from central Kansas, and I'm out here probably in what you call the sticks. But there's a lot going on out here in the sticks. I think a lot of people might have a misrepresentation that you have to be in the city for things to be going on, but that's not the case. I was born into a dysfunctional home, very dysfunctional home, a long history of alcohol and drug addiction, and kind of, I think, as most of us can relate. Just grew up in that environment where, mom had a lot of boyfriends. My sister and I have two different dads, ended up marrying a guy that she was with for a long time that was extremely violent. There was a lot of domestic abuse and just a lot of verbal, emotional, physical abuse going on in the house. And, anyway, kind of, survived that. Did a lot of counseling. I can remember in school when I was growing up, a lot of teachers kind of taking notice and stuff, and they did try to reach out and help, but it kind of got bounced around a lot. Went from grandparents to grandparents, and thank God I had a couple of good grandparents, on both sides that tried to help as much as they could, but they can't shelter you from all of that. And so there was just a lot of pain and stuff involved from that. I got into high school and started partying, started just kind of, doing the partying, doing the alcohol, doing the pot. And, just at that time, it's like just having fun. And before it turned into the monster that it did. I'm 45 years old now, but I met the love of my life, who I had my daughter with. I have one daughter. Her name's Hannah. And I met him when I was about 16 and he was 18. And he also had came from a pretty serious background of abuse and alcoholism on his side of the family. And, we connected right away, and, we just, followed head over heels. And, but we also, partied together, and, we drank together and smoked a lot of pot at that time. And we started getting into our 20s. Well, we kind of, I guess, you've heard so much about the opiate epidemic. We really kind of grandfathered that in. I know, about that would have been about 25 years ago, we started getting really heavy into opiates. And when I say that, it was the hydrocodones, the oxycodones, and then it went into just full blown, got into the fentanyl, got into it just extremely heavy. And about five years into our relationship, we had my daughter Hannah. And she was unexpected, but when we got pregnant, we were really happy. We were happy about the child, but unfortunately, we had addiction issues, and it's taken a lot of years to work through a lot of this stuff. So if I maybe appear to be maybe callous to it, or just matter of fact about it, it's not that. It's just that I've done a lot of recovery work and have worked through a lot of these issues. But we just had an extremely dysfunctional relationship. It followed the footsteps of what we both knew. We didn't know any different. And so we got real heavy into the drug scene. And that went on for a long time. And it was well, I had actually, both of us had gotten into trouble, but it was really, both of us is kind of like a first offense. And so we had both done a little bit of prison time. Mine was for burglary, and that was for, we had started to get into burglarizing for pills. And
Hold on, let me stop you. Let me stop you for a minute. You're talking about a burglary. Ahead. What were you guys doing? Burglarizing drugstores, people's homes, selling their shit? What was going on?
For drugs. We robbed some drug dealers. There was also just some people that we had, when you're in that opiate world, you'll do anything to keep from getting sick. I mean, you'll do anything. And these are things that, as I said, I don't want to appear callous to. I've actually went back now that I've gotten in recovery and went back to some of these people that I was involved in some of these crimes with, and actually went and made an amends and asked for forgiveness on. And I've done some real work on this stuff. So but this was back then, and I'm just kind of giving you the layout. So we had both done some time on that, and if I think I did maybe an 18-month sentence on that, and that was in the mid 2000s. And during that time, thankfully, we had family. My his parents and some of my family members were able to take care of our daughter, because I do have to say, through all this, like, we really, really loved our daughter. I mean, it was just we were so sick, and it was just we were just stuck, and we tried to get clean numerous times, and just didn't have a lot of success. So anyhow, let's see, so 12 years ago, due to drug and alcohol abuse, him and I had kind of gotten into an argument at the house, and he left. And he got in a car accident on Halloween night. And it was because he had been up for so long. And at this time, we had kind of started dabbling in meth as well, methamphetamine. And so he had left and gotten that accident. And he didn't die immediately, but he was on life support. And they had flew him to Wichita, Kansas, and was on life support for a couple of days. And unfortunately, we lost him. And, that's all due to drug and alcohol abuse. And at that time, my daughter was, I think she would have been just in middle school. And I think she would have been about, actually, she was about 10, I think. And it was just a huge blow. And I think from there, I really just kind of went out of my mind. I guess I don't really know how else to say it. I lost all control. And a couple of things happened. One, I started getting heavy into dealing drugs because I needed to support my habit, and I also needed to support myself.
I want to talk about that, Kristen, but I want to take you back to something that I think is important, right? The first time that you started using opiates, do you remember that first time? Where you're like, man, I just want to do it? Was it like a cool thing? You guys were young. Did you think about all the other people that you've seen involved in that type of life?
I remember the exact moment that it happened. Because like I said, we had smoked pot and been doing alcohol and stuff. But the first time, what it was a friend of mine, and I can't even remember who. We were at a party one time, offered me a morphine pill. And keep in mind, I had gone through so much pain from my childhood, from all the neglect and just all the violence and the abuse that my sister and I had witnessed. I remember that moment. I was probably 17 years old, and I took it, and about 30 minutes later, I just remember it. It's like it fixed everything. It was like that was the one thing that just made it all go away. All that pain that I lived with every single day, because it wears on you. I mean, as a kid, I remember being severely depressed and having, now I can identify it, but I didn't know at the time, was just, a lot of mental health issues that I had as a child from all that. And so it was just like an instant fix. And there's no way, I guess, I could have ever foresaw the damage that did. I mean,
Did you get high again right after that, or did it take a while for you?
yeah, it was like I was pretty much like, wow, I gotta get my hands on that, get my hands on that again. And that's kind of what led to, this really heavy, and it was just a hardcore addiction, where, like I said, it's shameful. They're shameful acts, man. I mean, talking about, going and breaking into an old lady's house that my grandma was best friends with, that I knew was sick and had, major powerful narcotics, things like that I mean, I just never would do. Now, I mean, thinking back on that, it just blows my mind where that'll take you, you know.
I know exactly
Um,
what you're saying. My father was a heroin
yeah.
addict, and he
Yeah.
died getting high. But
Mhm.
let me take you to the drug dealing part, because you talked about you were a drug dealer, right? So you're
Yeah.
selling drugs to support your addiction, pretty much. You're not getting rich. You're not buying houses. You're not buying boats.
Oh
You're
no. Mm-mm, no, I'm just getting that cash, getting that cash, supporting the habit, paying the bills, barely,
Were there times when you were
nothing.
selling drugs when it became violent?
I'm going to tell you right now, that's why I said, you'd be surprised just been out here, like in rural Kansas, the things that I'd gotten involved with and seen, and of course there were trips and stuff that were taken to Wichita and Kansas City, and where you'd go to acquire, when I started getting real heavy into dealing, when I started getting real heavy into sales, there was points where I was acquiring guns and, driving guns down to Wichita and trading out for dope, and, you know, um, it just I mean, I've just seen it all. I've seen it all, I mean, in all honesty. I
Were there times when people screwed you over for money and you had to threaten them?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And being a female drug dealer is a thing in all of its own, because you always have these people that think they're going to get over on you, and there was a lot of times where I couldn't do anything, but there were also other times where I had two or three. After my husband died, I had a couple and really got heavy into it. I had a few, male friends that would kind of help me, maybe, I don't know if you want to call it like a regulator, or an enforcer, or just, people that would help me to acquire debts if they didn't get paid, because it did kind of go from just kind of small, petty, support my habits and bills, to I started getting pretty heavy into it, and that's when what ultimately led up to my prison sentence. I realized later just how deep and how long an investigation had went on, and it wasn't just my local authorities. It was the KBI, which is Kansas Bureau of Investigation, and so they get involved when you're trafficking county to county to county, and you're not just in your local area. So I mean, I was trafficking a lot of drugs over a pretty far, um you know
Over a
I
long
guess
time period?
diameter. Yeah. Hmm.
Did they kick your door in?
No, actually what happened was, and I'll tell you what, amazingly, I just never saw it coming, but they had gotten somebody, and it's always a friend. I'd known this girl for, probably, God, 10 years. She knew everything I'd been through. I helped her, God, I don't know how many times with her kids, and just would go over and, buy groceries or help her. She had like 5 kids, and, help her clean up her house and help her get all her laundry done, and just, do things, give them rides, things like that. And this girl ended up turning state's evidence on me and wired up with the KBI, and did 3 controlled buys on me.
That's to be
And
expected in that life, though, Kristen. When someone's getting high and they don't really even care about their own household, they don't care about their kids. I mean, they do, but their drug addiction overpowers them. It's to be expected that a drug addict is going to tell on you because they don't want to go to jail. They want to get high today, right?
Yep, and that's exactly what happened. So a girlfriend of mine and I were driving back out to my house, and I lived about 35 miles out from even just the small town that I live in now, that I was born and raised in. I lived in an even smaller town because a lot of these towns don't have like police officers or police stations. They may not even, I mean, this town had like a gas station in it, so I was way out. I wanted to be away from, any sort of law or whatever. But ironically, they knew everything. They had started their investigation. But another thing I wanted to, so you asked if they kicked the door in. No, we were driving down the highway and we passed a black Suburban, and it was parked on the side of the road. And it was just parked facing the highway, kind of, like we're coming down the highway this way, and he was just parked. And so, my girlfriend and I kind of look at each other, and we were like, oh, that was pretty weird. And so I think within a couple of minutes, there was probably 15 unmarked Suburbans. They cornered us in, got us blocked in, all their guns drawn, hands up, hands in the air, hands in the air, hands in the air. And that was the day that ultimately changed my fate and in life. And
I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about that for a minute. I don't mean to
yeah.
interrupt you, but I want to ask you. So when the cops jump out, they pull you, they block you in, they pull out, there's guns out, there's badges. What's going through your mind at that moment?
At that very moment, in all honesty, I was like, get rid of the dope, get rid of the dope, get rid of the dope, because I had dope on me, and I wanted to get rid of evidence. And I didn't know at that time that they had, at that time had controlled buys on me. I did not know that. I was unaware. And so, until later when I could get my discovery and go through all that. But actually, I was just like, the scene that was made was so shocking that I think I was really in a state of shock, like as it was going on, but I know a lot of me was get rid of what I have, and well, not get rid of it, but, get it hidden. Let's just say that, get it hidden the way a woman could do. But the way I found out who the informant was when I had made the third buy with the girl. She had broken the rules with me, which was, don't ever bring anybody along. But she had a driver in a vehicle. And so when I went to do the buy, I saw this guy that was driving her, and I kind of even scolded her for it and was like, you know how I feel about this or whatever. But it was just, it all kind of happened so fast. But the next day when I was in jail, they, of course, pulled me out and wanted to get me to try to rat. And when they pulled me out of the cell and brought me down to question me, it was that man that was driving that truck who was an actual agent, that was doing the questioning. So you can see how they don't even care, about, they obviously didn't care about concealing her identity. So I knew immediately who had done it. But, of course, in my paperwork, it calls her a CI. It does not refer to her name anywhere. But I knew who it was because I knew, I knew the scenarios, and I knew each buy. And then, of course, he identified. I mean, he just put himself out there. I mean, he didn't have any qualms about it. But when a lot of what I also wanted to talk about was when I went to jail. I was on a couple at that time. I had finally gotten on the Suboxone program. All right. And a lot of people have different thoughts about Suboxone. And then I don't know, for viewers or listeners that don't know what it is, I'm sure most do, similar to a methadone program where, you can get medication maintenance to regulate your opiate addiction. And it did help quite a bit. And I mean, in fact, it kept me, from doing all that, doctor shopping and that searching and that constant craving, that you just can't ever seem to fill. It does help with that, but it's an addiction all in and of its own. It's you get dependent on it. And so when I went to jail, not only was I on a heavy dose of that, but I was also on heavy dose of Xanax. And the jail don't care. They just threw me in a cell. And I went through, sorry about that.
What on the Razor Wire TV, it's real and it's raw. Sometimes the volume goes out, whatever, but go ahead.
Right. So anyway, I literally hallucinated for probably 10 days straight. Just hallucinate. You see that on the movies? That had never happened to me before, when people withdraw off of like heroin, where they hallucinate. That happened to me. And I not only hallucinated for like 10 days, but I mean, I was just god awful sick. And I've been dope sick before, but this was treacherous. And all I could do was walk from my cell to the shower. And I did this probably 20 times a day. And I would just stand under the water. And that's all I could do. I mean, I couldn't even function. I just, I'd go back to my cell, put all the, covers I could on me, and until I got, just froze and chilling again. And then I'd go back, and I just do that. And I did that for probably, almost a good 2 weeks. And, Chad, I can tell you, so my charges were, I got busted with, obviously distribution of oxy and distribution of methamphetamine. And I got a 5-year sentence for it, which I understand isn't a 40-year sentence, and it isn't a 20-year, but, I kind of heard one of your guys on the interview the other day say it really doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but when you're a parent, and when you're a mother, and you've gotten the reality, when you're sitting behind there, and your lawyer comes in and tells you, look, you've got 5 years, and you're not going to see your daughter, and you're not going to see your family, and it just did something to me, man. And I got in there, and the yearning and the grief was just, that was it was a life-changing experience for me.
Say that again. I want the women that are drug addicted right now that are watching this show to know that was a what? A life-changing.
That was a life-changing experience. I mean, it was just, it just completely, I just can't even tell you, the longing and the grieving and it's so deep. You can't even describe it. I remember for like the first 16 months that I was in there, like I couldn't even talk really. I just, number one, it took that long for me to even get my head right and my body right from the abuse that I had done to it. I went in there, I went into prison. I think it was like, I was 120 pounds. And there was nothing to me, I had just wasted away. And it took 16 months for me to even begin to be able to think straight, to put thoughts together, and but once I hit that mark and got through that misery, it was like scales just came off my eyes, and all of a sudden I just started having like all these revelations of just how selfish, and how just how what I had really done, what the actions that I had done, and how that had affected my daughter. Here she didn't have her dad. Now her mom's gone. She's in high school. These are the most, I mean, these are hard years for a I would say teenager is already a hard time, and so that's another thing I want to talk about, is just because Hannah just meant everything to me, and all I could think about is how I just wanted to get out and just repair all this, and how was I going to do all that, and how was I going to live a normal life, because I mean by this time, I mean I was 40 years old, I mean I I didn't really have any experience.
Let me ask you this, Kristen, because I know what it's like to have a drug addicted father, right? A drug addicted father who was a major weed dealer in my city. He had big money. He'd go on crack binges for weeks at a time. We wouldn't find him for 7, 10 days. He'd be smoking crack. And he always thought that, as long as he had money and he bought us some Jordans and he bought us, back then, I think it was the Bo Jacksons and a starter jacket. If he bought us those things, man, everything was all right. New Nintendo games. And then he'd go on binges, and guess what he would do? He'd take our Nintendo and go sell it. He'd go, what we call here, geek it off. He'd go geek off our shit. All the shit he bought us. And then, when he got clean again, all of a sudden he's going to rehab. He gets out in 30 days and, everything's all right. And then he goes steal everything again. When he started getting high. Did you feel like you could make Hannah happy because you were selling drugs? Did she always have whatever she wanted? McDonald's and pizza and, the toys and the new bike?
I to be honest, we always like really made sure that like she had what, she needed. But by the time I really got into it really heavy, my sister had kind of gotten involved at that time and came in and kind of took guardianship over Hannah about a year before I went to prison.
I want to stop you for a minute. I have to. Yeah. Because I know you said that you gave Hannah everything that she needed. But you gave her everything that she needed except for the one thing that she really needed. And this isn't a knock on you. It's a wake-up call for other women that are watching this right now. What she needed was a mother.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, that's what I mean by when I was sitting in there, how all this and I felt all this like times 1,000, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden I was just like, oh my God, I mean, what have I done? And so like from that moment on, I've been out now. This was my 4th Christmas free. So when I was in there I literally just after I, felt all this and just suffered with this. And, I don't mean to make it about me. She was suffering too. And that's why I was suffering, because I was just like, God, I mean, this is it. I cannot do this to her anymore, And so I was just like, I am going to do different. And I am going to, change, and I'm going to make things better. All right. So I get on my knees. I get on my knees because I'm going to tell you right now, I know everybody has a different belief. All right. But I'm a Christian. All right. And I got on my knees and I literally just surrendered. I literally got in the posture of being on my knees, and I would just pray to God, every day, like, help me to do this, because I don't know how to do it. I mean, I knew I was I was just going to have to somehow, live a normal life. And I mean, that was the farthest thing that, I knew how to do. But by the grace of God, he just, I started going to all kinds of services in there, and I took advantage of every single program I could. And, I came out and I did everything I said I was going to do, and I'm still working on that. I mean, my daughter and I have a good relationship now. It's still, we're working on it, but I can tell you, talking to all these women out here too, you know, I didn't come out and it was like, oh, I'm better now, so everything's all better. I realized that my daughter, has a lot of issues that I'm trying to help her through now because of the actions that, that she had to endure and live through, and but I'm there for her now. And, I mean, if she was here right now with me, she'd tell you, just how proud she is of me. And, we spent yesterday together, and, this is who I live for now. I mean, this is my daughter and my granddaughter and her boyfriend. And I have a granddaughter now, and we have a great relationship, and I'm being a mother now. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually being a mother, not, and really working on that, and putting in that time and putting in that hard work. And I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy, man. I've, and I still have a lot of things that I deal with, but you can have a great life, but still have issues of like PTSD and things like that. I mean, I'm like, every day I wake up, I'm just so grateful and thankful, that, I mean, I have my own house. I have 2 cars. I have a car that I can, let my kids use, so they don't just have to have one car. I can, I'm working. I've done nothing but work and just grind and work and grind and work since I got out. I mean, I had 6 months of work release before I got out. So I had about $4,000 when I came out. Well, I got my driver's license. I hadn't had a driver's license in like 20 years. And so I literally just I got my license, and I just started just grinding, and I got a job within like 3 or 4 days. I had a job the day I walked out of prison. I didn't start it for about 3 or 4 days, but I have done nothing but work since the day I got out, and I mean, I've had some blows. I've had some really, really hard times, but I'm going to tell you, ain't nothing. There ain't a day that I don't wake up and just be grateful that I'm not in that life, and that I'm not in that prison, and that I'm not away from my daughter, and that I'm, that I'm.
Would you
that
rather
I'm
have
there.
you rather have them hard times out here than have them inside, right?
Oh man, in a heartbeat, in a heartbeat.
You got a really good story of redemption. A lot of people don't do what you've done. It's a struggle. It's a struggle to get over your addiction. I know people that have died in their addiction. My father was one of them. I got out of prison. I had a guy that taught me when I was younger how to do roofing and siding, and now I get out of jail, and he was a drug addict, and he was working with me. He was clean. Then he started getting high, and I went to get him for work one morning, and guess what? He was dead. He overdosed on fentanyl, and that was 9 months ago. So it is a struggle. I want to.
I've been through stuff like that too. I mean, in fact, I was actually partially almost involved in a murder case that involved an overdose on fentanyl. There's a lot. I'm telling you, there's just a lot of stuff that I've been through that, like I said, I've watched people come this close to overdosing on fentanyl, just because we used to use it all the time. But like I said, I went to a hotel one time to purchase some fentanyl, and a guy ended up overdosing in that motel. And I could have easily, been wrapped up in that, had I been the one that provided the drugs for him, or whatever, because that's kind of a law here. Like, if you are the one that provides the drugs for somebody who overdoses or whatever, you will go to prison. In fact, the guy that did, he ended up going to prison for, I think, a good 10, 12 years.
I talked about that.
For second degree murder.
I talked about that on my live today. They put you in federal prison all the time. There was a guy that someone mentioned on the live, Dennis Sika. Dennis Sika was just a drug addict. He'd get dime bags, sell them for 20 so he could get high. Two of the people he sold drugs to two different people. They both died, and he got a 35-year plea bargain. He's got 35 years. He's going to do 30.
Exactly. And because, thank God, in that case, justice was served, where, and in fact, the guy that actually was the one that provided him, and me, because I went there to purchase a patch. He tried to pin it on me and just say that I was the one that brought him. Of course, they had done a bunch of other stuff too. I guess after I left the room, they ended up robbing him after he died and everything. I mean, that's just what, this is what stuff going on, man.
It's the life, ain't it? That's the life. You end up overdosing, you're dead, and they're going in your pockets to take your shit.
And they literally robbed him blind and took his truck and left, and that all ended up coming out later in the trial and stuff. But I mean, that's the stuff that I've been through, man. I'm lucky. I'm telling you, my family, they know me the best out of everybody. And I'm telling you, they'll tell you I'm a walking miracle. I'm a walking miracle. And I mean, I guess I just want people to know that man, no matter how far down you get, I'm wearing my shirt for this interview. It says, get back up. All right. Get back up. It is never too late. It's never too late. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I've been out now, coming up this February, it'll be 4 years. But I mean, I was 40, so I was, 41 when I walked out, and I built from nothing.
So you got that shirt on, it says get back up. I don't really interview many women because a lot of women, I've reached out to plenty of women, just doesn't work out. So the life that you were living, right? So let's talk about reality, right? There were some young women out there that were probably prostituting to get high, right? Women that had nowhere to live. I mean, I've seen women live in closets. I've seen, someone that I was really close to.
I was on the streets homeless. I mean, numerous times. I
had a girl that I grew up with that I was very, very close to. She was very, very close to. She had kids with someone that I'm very, very close to. And, I come home, beautiful girl. I come home from prison, and she's, when I went to prison, she was 21, 22. I come home from prison, and she's 40, and she's living underneath a bridge. And I'm on my way to the state fair with my wife. My wife hasn't seen her in all these years. And we see her, and I just ask her, like, what the fuck are you doing? And she says, Chad, please, just give me some money. I said, for what? For you to go get high? She said, honestly, I need $120. She said, I want to buy $20 worth of food, and I want to buy $100 worth of crack. Can you help me? And I said, I'd rather you be honest with me. And you know what I did? I gave her $120. And I told her, when you're done with this shit, here's my number. You call me, and I will take you to a rehab center. So we go to the fair. I get a call from her a week later. She tells me she's got a ride. She went to a rehab center. She was there for 30 days. She's home now, and I think she's on the right track. But it's possible that she's not. But the moral of the story is get back up. And the reason why I talked about that is because there are women out there that are doing things like prostituting themselves, homeless, in and out of stores, stealing shit, taking a chance with their life every day. How many times have you seen men beat women up out on the street that were drug addicted?
Well, and myself. I mean, I've been a victim of it, I've been a victim of it, trust and believe. And I'm telling you, I mean, I've been beat with it. I've been beat within an inch of my life before. I can tell you that right now. But, that's all just that drug world. And, the thing about it is, when I was sitting in there, I was like, I have been such a selfish person. Everything was always about me and how I felt and what what happened to me and, this and that and the other, and I know it does affect you the way you grow up. And so if that's all it is really hard to kind of get out of that. But there comes a time when you have to take responsibility for your own actions. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. I hear you. I know, because I fell victim to it. I fell victim and did the same things that I hated that my parents did or whatever, as far as like getting into the drugs and the alcohol and the addiction and all that, but there just comes a time when you have to take that doesn't matter anymore. You have to take responsibility for you. I have to take responsibility for me no matter what the situation was. You know what I'm saying? And I got that revelation in there, and I was just like, I have been so selfish. So when I get out of here, I want to do anything and everything I can to be, instead of being a taker, I want to be a giver. You know what I'm saying? So any chance I can, you know, just like I do on your show, hit you with 10 bucks. I mean, do whatever I can to try to, help people, and to try to, instead of being just such a taker, out of society and just out of life, and that's helped me. That's helped me in my recovery so much. I've done a couple interviews on a couple different podcasts. Any chance I can get to get my story out there, to just to help anybody, I'm grabbing it. I mean, I'm busy. I work all the time, and I'm so involved with my family now, which is a great thing. I'm with my granddaughter and my daughter, are working. I mean, or church, I volunteer at the church. I'm actually even a staff member now at my church, part time. But I just, don't be such a taker, don't make life be all about you all the time. I mean, let's focus on other people, man.
No doubt, Christian. You've been supporting the channel forever, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do. Not just about sending money here and there or whatever, but forget all that stuff. I appreciate you working at the church, reaching out with your message. I'm sure there's some women out there on the street that you've helped, or you said, "Hey, look, this is my story.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you like this."
In fact, I'm careful about it, but I've helped some people. I've one of my old friends I've known my whole entire life. I mean, she was, oh man, I ain't got no place to go. I'm out here on the street. I mean, you got 3 weeks. You can come on in here. You got 3 weeks. Yeah, I catch you with anything in this house, you're gone. Because I can't risk that. But I'm careful about situations, but I'm going to help anybody I can if they're serious about it.
No doubt. So listen, you've been out of prison for 4 years. You've been doing the right thing. You're working a job. I see you got a ring on. Are you married now? What's going on in your life?
No, I have not. I have been single. I have been single. I guess I just, I haven't had the best experiences. I lost the love of my life, in a car accident to addiction. I don't know. I haven't really been looking. I guess I figure, if the right one comes along, the right one comes along, but,
God's got one for you.
Remember that. I know one thing, it's not easy being doing this on my own, but then I think it's going to take a special person too to be with, because I can do it on my own, and I've been doing it on my own. I'm not dependent on somebody, but don't think for a second. Sometimes I'm not laying here and I'm like, man, I wish that coffee pot was already going, or what I'm saying? Just, man, I wish somebody'd bring me a cup of coffee or something.
So you gotta, you know what though? You gotta take care of yourself in the beginning and let things, work themselves out,
But I didn't want to be one of those people either, because I know a lot of women, like they kind of depend on men, and and that's all great if it's in a healthy way. But I didn't want to run out and just run into a relationship right away, because my focus was really my daughter and building that relationship back.
As it should be. But you know what? You come across as a independent person. I can tell you can be stern when you need to be, just from talking to you.
I think that's just that life that I led, And like I said, man, I'll tell you what, it's not easy. One of the things that I struggle with a lot is nightmares. I have some anxiety, and I'd say mild depression, but man, I got it. PTSD comes in the form of nightmares for me a lot, but it's just from all that that shit, you see, man, you know, I mean, on
You've
that.
been through it, and I'm sure you've seen plenty of stuff. I wanted to get into some of the prison stuff, but maybe we'll talk about that in a part 2, because
Yeah,
you're
definitely we should talk about that, because on a part 2, because I want to talk about the differences in prisons too. So
we'll do that. But today your story of redemption is much better than any prison story you could probably tell us, because your story of redemption might help some young lady that's out there doing the wrong thing, out on the street. Maybe tonight's the night that, she sees this video and she reaches out to her family that want to come pick her up. Maybe she's in Kansas, but she's from Minnesota and she's stranded down there and her parents are looking for her and she's just on the street. So maybe tonight's the night she calls.
And I hope so. That's my prayer. That's why, like I said, my prayer since prison is like, enough about me. Let's help others. So, and that's why hats off to you. 'Cause I'm like, man, this is where it's at. This is the stuff I want to be involved in, and like I said, you're not the only one. I've done like 1 or 2 other interviews and I listened to a few other podcasts, but I surround myself with, just those types of the platforms, because I mean, also it's just what I can connect. It's what I know. It's what I connect with. It's hard to connect with just people who've never been through this lifestyle and been in prison. And you know what I'm saying? Like I can go out and, I can talk with the best of them, but they just, it's different. They've not been there. You know what I mean? So when I listen to these shows and I get involved with them and stuff, it kind of helps me feel at home, because I just know that that this audience understands, and for the most part. So
no doubt. But listen, before we close, is there one last message that you might want to give some little young lady that is on the wrong path?
I want to say one of the things that I was a total deception in my mind when I was younger was that I couldn't control my thoughts, or that I couldn't control myself, that this was just the way I was, that that I was just, this is how I was born and raised. And I really believed that. But I want to say that we actually do have control over, we might not have control over the first thought that comes in, but we have control with what we do with it after that. You know what I'm saying? And that we do have options, and that we do have choices, and that you can build on those next right choices, and I know it's cliche, but just that how you grew up and what your past is doesn't define you, and that it's just never too late. I mean, never too late. Don't, if I was talking to myself, like, I know you feel this way now, but trust me, life can change on a dime. And not can it only change for the worse, but it can change for the better, man. I mean, I can say, in all honesty, I think prison, I mean, to that informant, to that girl that betrayed me, thank you. Hats off. You put me on a different trajectory that, where you're still out there, and I'm doing better.
She may have saved your life.
I think so. So
look, Kristen, I'm going to close the show. Let you know that I appreciate you coming on here. You're part of the Blood on the Razor Wire family. It's not my channel, it's our channel. You're part of that, and I appreciate you. Appreciate you sharing your experiences. I'm sure it's not easy to say some of the things that you said tonight, but we definitely appreciate you. So I'm going to close the show and tell people, don't forget to share this one, because I think it's important. Someone needs to hear this message. Until tomorrow, go ahead.
And congratulations on those boys. And you know what? Congratulations to you too. And let's just keep helping people, man.
No doubt. I appreciate you. With respect, we're out until tomorrow.